that. And I thought it was supposed to be in there too.
No, it is.
So,
It's right here.
It's right there. Yep. We're good.
That's new business, public hearing,
Yep.
old business is good.
Well, I thought you put the public hearing
No,
here.
this is,
Right, but, oh, you're right, because there it is right there. It's under old. Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Makes sense. All right. Let me get my notes.
talk to Jen.
No.
So who, sir?
I'm okay with starting.
I just heard the bell ring, we'll just watch that.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as written.
I will second that.
Motion and support to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Agenda is approved. No meeting minutes available to approve. Move to call to the public. Now is time for call to the public. Anyone? Here. Yep, go ahead.
So I did ask you if you would explain to everyone, what is this call to the public? They don't know, people that haven't been here. Could you just explain the structure of the meeting first?
You get 3 minutes to speak. For the public to speak.
Agenda items.
Anything else?
You know, I'll do it. Jeanette Rapetta, Tyrone Township resident. So right now is the regular meeting. You can have 3 minutes to speak about anything that's on the agenda. Then they're gonna break into, it doesn't say it on the front cover, but it does on the back tell you what the public hearing's about. They're gonna tell you new business, that's where the public hearing is. If you flip your agenda over, you can see the structure for the public hearing, where that's when your comment for the public hearing goes on record. Then you'll see the schedule for that on the back side. Then they come back over here, they go out of the public hearing, they go to old business, and that's when they're gonna discuss and possibly vote on whether to recommend or not. At the end of all of that, you get another chance. So you have 3 opportunities to speak tonight.
Is there any more agendas?
Forgot to turn this on.
The agendas are posted online. They're not usually printed here at the township office.
And here's an extra one if anyone wants some.
We've got a couple up here.
What? No. Easy.
Go ahead.
Okay, 8 seconds back, please.
No,
Good
you
evening,
already
my name is
started
Jeanette,
early.
pardon me?
I thought you already started earlier.
No, I didn't.
In case your 3 minutes wasn't enough, you get some extra time. Go ahead.
I would like my 3 minutes, please.
Well, you already were speaking for 2 minutes.
Could I have my 3 minutes, please?
Finish
Is
up.
that so hard? My name's Jeanette Rapetta. I'm a Tyrone Township resident, and as you can see, there's great resistance up here to inform the people. Before tonight's public hearing begins, I want to talk about this agenda and about the process that got us here, because the public participation requires more than what you did, Mr. Chairman. You did the minimum, putting a notice 15 days ago or 10, whatever it was, in the paper. Residents need time to learn, read, understand, and ask questions. This rezoning request first came before the Planning Commission on April 29th, and at that meeting, Planning Commission meeting, there was a discussion about possibly a future public hearing, but there were still many questions and discussions that needed to happen. A Planning Commission workshop happened to be scheduled before this hearing. But at the May 19th board meeting, Supervisor Carnes encouraged residents who had questions about planning issues to attend the upcoming Planning Commission meeting/workshop. Then the workshop was canceled with no reason given. So my question is, why? Why cancel an opportunity for the public discussion right before a public hearing on a decision like this? You did what the law requires you to do. You announced in the paper 10 to 15 days ago. But then we wait for the meeting packet. We wait for you to put it on the calendar, to email all of your township subscribers. And when did you do that? Yesterday at 4 o'clock. Is that transparency? You had the information since the 15 days ago. So it wasn't available until yesterday at 4 p.m. Many residents rely on that packet to understand what is actually being considered, and they rely on that email to know that there's a meeting or a public hearing. This is a request to change farming residential land to M1 light manufacturing, land that currently feeds us, that potentially could destroy us. That is not a small discussion, and residents should have not had to rush through documents the night before a public hearing to understand what questions they should ask. My concern tonight is not about this specific request only. My concern is about the process. Yes, if you truly wanted residents to be involved, you need to make it easier for them to participate, not harder, which is what you've done. Transparency should not just mean checking the required boxes. It should mean giving residents every reasonable opportunity to be informed before decisions are made. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Gentleman back there, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a resident, Ken Carter, just down the street from here. My concern is these developments coming into our rural community. We've seen just recently with the one right down the street allowing less than an acre development move on. I feel that these large developments are going to push their way in no matter what. You might not even have control of it. But I think what we need to think about is, what are our rules of engagement? We need some guarantees for residents. Some property tax abatements that these developments may work towards. We need some reassurances that if aquifers are affected, they pay for deep well recovery. As residents, we need some of these things. I'm not sure what we're getting. These people are coming in and moving. You know, I know the farmers, they're coming in offering $100 million for a 4x1 mile square. I know a farmer that rejected it. Part of the reasons they want to be here is we have gas mains that run right through here, high power lines that they can adapt to quickly. So I think that the important thing is you look at this. What can you be doing to help us in the long term? We live here now. If our property taxes are affected, if our wells are affected, if our electric is affected, they should be giving us some benefits on that as well. So I believe rules of engagement. You can't stop. They're going to come in and fight you with the money they have. Our small township can't afford it. It's the same thing that happened with the development right down there. So we need to be serious about putting some things in force that can protect us, because we're not going to stop them. So I just hope you take these comments and think about it as you proceed further. Maybe we need to be looking at this a little differently. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Consider standing.
How are you doing tonight?
Hello.
This Eller property development, we have an exact plan yet?
There's not an exact plan yet.
There's no plan. But you're willing?
The plan is to rezone it. It's not-
Right,
it's not a-
right. So we're gonna
not
rezone
a-
without even knowing what they're gonna do.
Are you aware of a conditional rezoning?
How about, let's see, it's zoned farming and residential. Leave it at that. I rest my case.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Chris Rapetta, Tyrone Township resident. I'll save my comments about the rezoning during the public hearing, but for the data center, it looks like in number 2 on the memo from McKenna that we're considering maximum power utilization for hyperscale data centers. We don't have to consider making an open door policy for data centers at the M2 or heavy industrial level, like we did for solar, battery, and wind. There's no obligation. As a matter of fact, for battery and wind, we even prohibit it below what the law is required, so that we don't have to roll out the red carpet in developing data center ordinances. This looks to me like we're trying to accommodate large hyperscale data centers, and it's not necessary to do that. We need to keep our rural character in our community. And it also, on the topic of the MMMA, I really can't believe I'm saying this after 2.5 years of moratoriums, that we're still talking about the MMMA. That should have been done long time ago. But again, we have setback considerations coming up, and 500 feet, maybe talking about reducing it to 250 feet. Why? Why are we trying to accommodate them? And there's also a thing about vacant land. We don't really have to accommodate if there's no vacancy for certain kinds of commercial or industrial property. There's no obligation on the township's part to look and specifically look for vacant land or look for other areas that people can go in and can use. We have our allotment and our master plan that guide us with regard to zoning for all the different types of properties and their use. So I'm concerned about both of these, that we're trying to over accommodate these, and we don't need to. There's no reason to, especially with regard to, and there's not been a discussion here, to my understanding, of the master plan and where we are. So I'm very concerned about that. From a planning perspective, I would assume you'd go to the master plan before discussing the data centers to try to have that discussion. But it seems a little bit backwards in this particular instance by trying to craft accommodating language for the ordinance amendments prior to looking at the master plan, as well as trying to accommodate MMMA growers and other things like that. And it doesn't make sense. So that's just my comments and opinion about those two topics.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I also live in this county, and I live in Top of the Pines. And if it's true what three persons back said, that this is eventually going to become land that will be industrial, and it's inevitable that it's going to happen, I can't imagine anybody better than the Allers, who made that beautiful complex where they live themselves so close to here, that would handle that land appropriately. We get somebody in here that's outside from Ohio or you name it, and they come in here and do whatever they want to. They won't care about any of us around here. But Allers certainly have proven themselves that they care desperately. So if it's going to happen, I'd rather have them in charge of the thing than anybody else. Any questions for me?
No questions.
Thank you.
Thanks for the comment. Anyone else? Hearing none, we will move to new business, and we will go into the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the regular meeting?
So moved. Support.
Zach on the support. Motion to close the regular meeting and move into the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, for the public hearing. For the public hearing, reading of the public notice. Notice is hereby given that the Tyrone Township Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 9th, 2026, beginning at 7 p.m. at the Tyrone Township Hall, 8420 Running Lake Road, Fenton, Michigan, 48430. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive public comments regarding the following proposed zoning map amendment. Regarding a request by Aller Property Development LLC for a proposed rezoning of parcel 470417400007, currently zoned FR Farming Residential to M1 Light Manufacturing. The parcel is located on Old US 23, north of Center Road, regulated by zoning ordinance number 36, Article 29, zoning amendments. Additional information is available at the Tyrone Township Planning and Zoning Department, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Individuals with disabilities requiring auxiliary aids or services should contact the Tyrone Township Clerk at 810-629-8631 at least 7 days before the meeting. Review of the application. So I will open this up to the developer, Mr. Aller, if you want to go over review of the application. And I can pull it up on the screen. If, but you can put that up too if you want.
So this is the, nobody back here, nobody can see it.
Which drawing do you want up on the screen?
I've got two of my own that you probably don't have.
Oh, okay, well,
Maybe.
like
that?
yeah, maybe Ross, if you maybe get another chair or something.
I'll be the easel. I'm an easel.
There we go. My name's Tony Aller. I've been resident of Tyrone Township for over 50 years. So I grew up here, went to State Road School, graduated from Fenton High School. I live here. I don't really have plans of going anywhere, raise my family here, all my kids. I have 4 kids, they went through the public schools here. I've developed 3 subdivisions in the area, Top of Pines, which Dave extremely mentioned. Applewood, and then a small one on Foley Road. I believe everybody that lives there is happy. It's a great place to live. I love living here. And over the years, I've seen this parcel, which we have a manufacturing plant that was built in 1987. It's on the south side of this parcel, fairly good sized facility. And then on the west side of the parcel, we have a bunch of ponds over there, and I think they are.
That's part of the manufacturing parcel. That's zoned M1 as well.
But they have, I think it's old sanitary.
It's a lagoon.
System, yes.
And then this right here is a high pressure gas line, like right down the middle of this parcel. Nobody's going to want to live here. You got a manufacturing plant, sewer treatment ponds back here, and a gas line. So all the different proposals that we've had, I was sitting with you guys here, I don't know, a year and a half ago with the solar farm. I spoke up and said, you know, we don't want that in our community. I don't want to see that every day, drive by and have these things, they're just a nuisance. So when this thing came up for sale, it's been up on and off for sale for years, and it came up for sale last year. I started putting my head together and saying, what can I do here to take this potential nuisance property off the market and build something that is representative of our community. It's going to be industrial. Matter of fact, I believe this is zoned for solar in right now. I think there's a solar overlay.
It's within the solar overlay.
So, I mean, we could get solar here if I'm not doing this. I'm not gonna do solar. I'm not gonna do the, we were talking about the data centers. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do an asphalt plant. But what I wanna do is nice-looking industrial buildings, whether they're for manufacturing or warehousing. You know, the access here with US 23 and the frontage road here that is really not a main artery. There's not a lot of traffic. So I think it's really a perfect piece for what I'm proposing. And I get where you're coming from on the rezoning, and why aren't we looking at a project? We talked about this at the last planning commission. I think the benefit of rezoning this now is that I get to bring in the potential users of these parcels and sit in front of the planning commission, go to meetings here at the township and understand what does this tenant or what does this buyer want to do with this property. I'm the first line of defense. They come in here and they want to grow dope. I know it's not it's you guys pause that. If somebody wants to come in here and do a marijuana manufacturing plant, I'm gonna tell them no. I don't want to smell that all day when I'm driving by. So I'm the first line of defense, and then once it's rezoned, we can come here and they have to go through an extensive planning commission review. You've got a planner, outside planner, account, I believe. You guys all look at it, and there's a lot of eyes on these site plan reviews. Once the site plan review is tweaked and approved, then it goes on to Livingston County. And their engineers go through the plans and what you're going to do with the water and everything else very extensively. So there's a lot of checks and balances that go on after the rezoning process. So that's kind of my pitch here. I'm a resident, I'm not going anywhere, I live here, been here longer than maybe some of the people in this room, and I want to make sure that this land is developed properly. Yes, sir.
Is there, we're not open to public comments yet. Let's finish our agenda for the public hearing. If you're done,
I'm good, yes.
then maybe Ross, set those to the side or something so they can be looked at or referenced. But continuing on with the application, I think.
One more comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill, you asked me to bring a building. This is a building that I own down in Tyrone Township. It was built in '95, so it's a nice looking manufacturing building. 85,000 square feet. I mean, it's not as nice as that, but it was built in 1995, so it's clean. There's not a bunch of junk out there. We've got a nice pond. Geese get to have their babies there every year. So I'm a guy that cares about how, and tries to do things right.
Thank you, sir. So, as Mr. Aller mentioned, I guess one thing, Ross, can you go over the differences between the rezoning that's requested here versus a conditional rezoning? Just a high level.
Yeah, I mean, essentially a rezoning is just, what has been applied for conventional rezoning. It's a request to change the designation of the land to allow for different types of uses. It is about as high level as you could possibly get with that. Any potential uses, if the property were to be rezoned, whether it be a principal permitted use or a special land use, would be subject to township review and ultimately township board approval, denial, or whatever it may be. In the M1 district, every single use that is a permitted use is required to go through site plan review, which is going to require at minimum going through the planning commission. That could be subject to things like engineering review, planner review, additional consulting review as necessary on a case-by-case basis. Same thing if it were a special land use, but if it were a special land use, it's also going to require at least one public hearing as well. So basically, anything that may potentially happen can't just happen automatically if the property were to be rezoned. There are additional steps that are necessary. There are safeguards put in place in the ordinance, standard requirements for any type of potential future use, if that helps.
Thank you, Ross. Anything else, Paul? Anything you need to add?
No, I think that sums it up. I think that the entire conversation is about what uses could happen. So you should consider all those uses according to criteria in the ordinance. As Ross mentioned, though, each of those uses has a development path for zoning approval after this.
Thank you. So that's a little overview of the process. Now we'll move to public comments. We got multiple. You're already standing back there, so come on up. And please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Michael Yules, for the record. I want to make sure that we're all aligned on what's actually being requested here. We heard from Ross, thank you. This is being presented as a 50,000 square foot warehouse, when in reality it is a rezoning of approximately 44 acres, or roughly 1.9 million square feet to M1, which establishes long-term industrial entitlement across the entire parcel. As I understand it, this is a speculative building with no identified end user, so we don't know who the occupant will be, what the operations will look like, or how the site may ultimately build out over time. That means we're not evaluating a specific use, we're evaluating the full range of uses permitted under M1 across all 44 acres. And just for context, the proposed 50,000 square foot building would occupy only about 2 to 3% of that total site area, leaving the vast majority of the parcel available for future development under that zoning. That could include large-scale phased developments such as industrial campuses or even data centers, which can expand over time, occupy significant acreage, and introduce substantial infrastructure like generators and electrical systems. I also think it's important to connect this back to the master plan. While this area is identified for planned industrial use, the plan clearly emphasizes compatibility, particularly where industrial uses meet planned residential. With medium-density residential directly adjacent, the question isn't just whether the industrial is appropriate here, it's whether the full range and intensity of M1 uses represents an appropriate transition at this location. And decisions like this don't happen in isolation. Establishing industrial zoning here effectively sets a new edge, which can influence future requests to extend that pattern further over time. So my concern isn't just about the first building, it's about the long-term outcome this enables. We're not being asked to approve a warehouse. We're being asked to approve 44 acres of unknown industrial use by an unknown future occupant, next to planned residential, and to set the precedent for what comes next. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chris?
Thanks, Chris Ropetta, Tyrone Township resident. Just a couple things in agreement with what Michael was indicating. We're not talking about uses. As a matter of fact, in the April 29th meeting, Mr. Aller said that it could be 100,000 square feet, could be more, depending upon what, and there's even a sign, I believe, up there advertising that it's already industrial. The problem that I have as a resident is that we're trying to open that up, that whole land, and even in the McKenna planning documentation, it talks about that there's M1 right below it, right, which or near it, right, that it's adjacent to, and that's not a very compelling reason to approve of an M1 designation just blanketly, because to Ross's point, while the site plan still has to get done, there are natural uses that don't have to go through special land use permitting and things of that nature. So we have a lot of complexities that can move in with regard to that. Plus, there are things that can be accommodated, and without knowing who the customer is, it's very difficult to do that. And one of the comments that was made in number 6 in the McKenna document, the owner will be testing the demand for industrial uses. Well, we don't have a compelling reason to move this. If it's in our master plan as a potential for M1, then we have the potential for addressing it at the time of the actual need when it comes in, rather than doing it as a blanket ahead of time right now. And it clearly is not affecting marketing or market testing from that perspective, since the sign is already up there. The other item that I wanted to mention too is that there's a comment that in the conclusion and recommendations number 4 that there's minimal impact on infrastructure due to the proximity to utilities and US 23. For the land to not change, that's absolutely true. But you have no way of knowing until you get a customer of Mr. Allers to come in and present a site plan as to what the impact might be. Because as we know, data centers have a much different impact. And I appreciate the fact that he says he doesn't want to do that, but that's not a commitment. And, conditional, I believe conditional types of rezoning are at the liberty of the person requesting it, not at the liberty of the township to demand certain conditions like no data centers and no this or no that. So that's just my understanding. I could be wrong. But I think that we don't know a lot of things even in the recommendations, and I'm very concerned about that, which means that I would rather see that this not move forward in this sense until there's a customer identified, which he's working on doing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Either of you?
My name is David Broadworth. I've lived in Tyrone Township now. Broke ground first in one of Tony Allers' developments, Applewood Estates, on September 10th of 2001, which made it even more nerve-wracking for me. I've lived here for 22 of the last 25 years. I was in the meeting with Tony back when we were looking at solar farms coming in because the Michigan State was going to force us into a situation. You're seeing now where they're forcing people into situations of data farms and the amount of money that they're giving to the local homeowners to move out. Well, I trust Tony enough that he's not going to do anything with it. In fact, when that started to happen and we were zoning this area for M1, I mentioned to Tony, hey Tony, you should buy this and put something nice up here. Now, I'm also a real estate broker, been in the business since 2012. One of the things that I see is that land, nobody's going to build residential houses there. You saw the development that went in, I don't know how long it's been in there, down behind the trailer facility. And that hasn't been that great of a success in there. Homes are too close to US 23. And then you have the homes over off of Bennett Lake Road. They don't want to get, they're not going to be pushed homes. And as long as we can give, I think that's zoned still residential, isn't it, on the west side of where Tony's bought into?
West side of the site where?
Yeah, that whole farmland. The west side, Tony didn't buy on the west side of the that whole that whole farmland, correct? He just bought on the east side?
Well, to the west of it is the ZF factory that's currently zoned M1. That's on the south. That's on the south and west side.
Yeah. Okay, I thought he bought up north of that.
And the west side.
So north of the factory, what's that zone? Is that residential?
North of the factory?
Yeah.
Is residential.
And
That's been there for a long, long time, and you haven't seen any developers come in to build residential areas there because it's not that great of an area. There's no trees, you can farm, but, at the price of land right now, farmers aren't buying it. It's being bought by other people. So do you want somebody that's local and cares about this township, or somebody coming in out of state, or just with a lot of money, all they're looking to do is they don't care about the land. The way the solar farms came in, they would lease the land from the farmers, then the equipment goes bad, and what do? They file bankruptcy, and they move on, and they destroyed the land, and it's not gonna be able to use for anything. So, I like the idea. I'm actually looking to lease a building. I've been down in typically the Brighton area, and I just showed Tony, it's M1 just off of Bergen Road, or off of the old US 23 at Bergen Road. It's where a lot of small business people can have their facilities. And they've got, they look almost like townhouses. So depending on what you're gonna do, and you can't find it out all right away until everything goes through the process. So the people that are mostly concerned, let's follow the process and see what happens. If Tony's going the wrong way with it, let's shut him down. But I trust Tony enough that he's not gonna do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot to set the timer.
Yeah. Let's wait till we get back to the public comments over, and then you can. Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Eller's proposing a 50,000 square foot building on a little, well, on the little parcel there, but it's 44 acres complete, correct?
Correct.
What's gonna stop him from building 16 more buildings on that property?
Well,
You have plans.
Site plan approval.
yeah, site plan.
You're not gonna just build the
I'm
50,000
looking at
square foot.
doing 4 parcels. And the rule of thumb is every 10 acres, you can get about 100,000 square feet of building
Okay.
that will accommodate.
Watershed off that building, parking lot watershed. You
And
got
it's
zero
all-
absorption of water going
so-
on, it's just all runoff.
You build the retention ponds.
Oh, that's the greatest thing, DNR allowed all us to do that stupid shit. You know how well that works? It collects muck. That's all they do.
If you do it right,
They do it right.
it works well. It's done all over,
I-
you drive
I
around
already
these
see,
industrial
I
buildings.
can already see that's a 50,000 square foot building is not all you're doing. Everybody knows that.
Correct.
Who the hell, why would you? You're gonna make money. I understand, you're, got a beautiful building down wherever that is.
That's on 10 acres,
Just
just
making
making 5,000 square feet. There's the retention areas, it's worked since 1995.
Lease it to the farmers. Farmers would love to lease property like that right by the highway, there's no trouble, there's no traffic, they're off the highway, they've got a service drive there. Find a farmer, they'll lease it. That's a,
I'd like to
Don't
comment on that.
manufacture.
I do have a farmer that's leasing it. The
Yeah.
problem is, this land is already designated in the tax code as development land. So the cost, the taxes far exceed what a farmer can pay. Because it's already being developed, it's being taxed as development land. It's not being taxed as,
how's it being
because that's
Texas
the way,
development,
that's the way.
farm
it is.
residential?
That's the way Michigan is, and that's the way it's designated. If it was zero taxes, things would be a little different. You could farm, you could afford to farm.
Thank you.
I thought he was done.
That's all right, come on up. Everyone's gonna get a turn, so.
My name is Jim Peabody, and so I was born and raised, so I guess I've lived here for 65 years. This has nothing to do with it, but I just had my 5th grandchild about 3 hours ago, so I just came
Very
from
good.
the hospital. The way I look at this is the quickest possible way you could get this built and approve it, I think is super important. And the way to look at it for me is to look at the history of the development of Fenton. The Fenton Industrial Park is what funded Fenton area schools, the high school. When the industrial park was built and that tax base increased, That's 100% how we funded our schools, and our community's built off that school, our school district. And to see somebody like Tony Aller and his father Fred, who have done nothing but great developments in our township, we are so fortunate to get that kind of family who's willing to put up their capital, their money, their ingenuity to build an industrial park in our area. The second thing is, I think for this board, is to take a look at what's happened up in Thompson Road with Miller Industries. That was a farmer's field 2 years ago. They built a 300,000 the first 300,000 square foot building, a second 300 square foot building. They did it from being zoned agricultural to the building, the certificate of occupancy being done in 12 months. And now they're gonna build a third building that's gonna go up there. Each of those buildings is about 250 to 300 additional employees that are great jobs. And I just hope that this board, number one, looks at the Aller family as to what they've done in the past. That speaks to me a lot of how lucky we are. Number two is my wife and I have four daughters. The one that just had a baby lives in Tyrone Township. It's pretty unique in today's world to see kids move back to the area. They're not moving back here without jobs. And you got to look at those manufacturing buildings that Tony's going to build. Everybody's heard of the V8 engine, for instance. A guy from Fenton, a little Italian guy named Dolza, invented the V8 engine. He lived in Fenton. It's right downtown. Those buildings, it's the potential to do wonderful things that could change not just this area, but it helps perpetuate America in our business system. So I look at it like we're really fortunate to have the Allers. I hope you guys on this board do whatever can do to pick up the pace. And there's always risk. I get that. But I just, once again, I got a ton of respect for the Aller family. I have no business interest in this. I've truly, my father sat on your board. I think my nephew Brandon was involved in this. And I just really hope, or want to encourage you guys to see this through. So with that, thanks.
Thank you. Yep, go ahead. You've been waiting.
Hello, Greg Newfer, Tyrone Township resident. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will make this brief because everyone's pretty much said what I've said positive about Tony Aller. I've been a resident for over 15 years. I've known Tony for over 15 years. I worked for his companies. So as an employer, I see how he handles people. I see how he handles projects. I see the three developments. This is M1 master planned. Someone would get it. I would much rather have a 50-year resident get it who intends to stay than someone who just comes in fly-by-night and gets a zoning and decides, well, I can do whatever I want under the zoning. I have a high amount of trust in the Aller family, the Aller name, that he will do what's right for this area, and I don't feel comfortable with anyone else buying that property. If he says there's not going to be a solar farm, there won't be a solar farm. So I'd just like to reiterate that what Mr. Peabody said too. If the faster, the better. And I've got my trust in Tony. And this board has the ability to, excuse me, through site plan review to regulate this. So if there's issues, you guys can put a stop to it. But I don't think you're going to have a problem with Tony. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 seconds more.
Did you already go?
Yes.
Is anyone else?
Yeah, Alexa.
Come on up.
Dean Haas, been in Tyrone Township only about 15 years, but my family's been here for 100. I think we're off track here because this whole thing isn't about Tony Aller. It's about a process. It's about rezoning. And you can say he's great. He might be a great guy. He might have great intentions. But if he does, there should be no issue with us rezoning this as the projects come in, like we do every other time. You know, why do we do a mass rezoning? He's already got some, start evidently, that he can, his light industrial, I believe it's Pyro right now, the first section he owns, is that correct?
I'm not.
Or is it
familiar.
all FRs right now?
The site that we're talking about is 44 acres just north of the ZF factory.
Right, I thought part of that was Pyro already. It's all FR.
It's all FR.
Okay, so again, why not, he's got one project he says he's ready to do or is thinking about doing, why not evaluate that project and evaluate each one? If the project comes in and it's a good project, rezoning at a later date is not a long process. It can be done very quickly. There's no reason for us to push through and put something out there that may end up biting us in the backside later. Because once it's M1, it's M1. We can't say, oh, we've decided we don't want to do that no more. And again, the project, if it fits in M1, even if we don't like it, we're gonna have a hard time fighting it as a board or as a township. So let's approve these projects as they come. We in good faith, he says he's working in good faith, then why can't he take the township's word that we'll work in good faith to approve this and get him rezoned if the project meets our master plan and what we want in our township and what the people want in this township as he goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Way in the back.
Hi, my name's Tessa Carter. I live just down the road. I don't know how many people in this room have raised animals or horses personally, but we need about 600 bales per year just to feed our horses. And this land has already been referred to as undesirable by Mr. Aller specifically. And maybe Mr. Aller has great intentions coming in. And maybe I'm not worried about him, but I'm worried about the next person that comes in and our next farmland. All it takes is we set this precedent by rezoning this land, and then next thing you're looking around and there's no farmland. And there's no hay fields for us to get our hay from, and we're driving 2 to 3 hours just to get hay. And anyone in this room who has never had to get hay, I invite you to come with us to bale all this hay and bring it home, because 2 to 3 hours to get hay is not feasible for anyone. So I would like you to think about that the next time you think about rezoning this, and then eventually everything else around, because this sets a precedent for the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
I also,
Be quiet. The applicant's speaking right now.
I also own horses, and I grew up on a horse farm, and I baled a lot of hay. And next to insulating, that's probably the worst job there is. And I get it. But the problem is, this farmland is too expensive to farm anymore. The lease that I get doesn't even come close to covering the taxes that are being charged on this farmland.
You're using the tax abatements for farmers, how's that? Give us some money back.
You know what, I've hired an attorney already to go to the states to get my taxes lowered, but it's a you know how it is. It's a 3-ring circus when you're dealing with.
We have a board that can do it.
Well, it's not that easy. It's outlived its useful life as farmland because it's overtaxed.
Again, and whose fault's that? That's the township's fault.
Well, I think it's the state of Michigan's fault. It's not the township's fault.
All right, we're going to continue with public comment. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Jeanette, go ahead.
If anyone hasn't spoken right now, this is the portion that you do want to get up, because this is the public hearing, so it's for the record. Why is it that Mr. Allor, if he's such a great guy and everything, I don't know him, I've never met him, why isn't he offering the conditions? Why isn't he saying, I'll write it up, I'll say this is what I'm going to do? That's called the conditional rezoning, right? It can't be coming from the township, it has to come from him, but he's not doing that. Over the last several days, I spent many hours reviewing zoning ordinance, master plan, previous discussions about this property, even going back to the asphalt application. Only got the packet last night. The biggest thing I hope residents understand tonight is this. This public hearing is not about whether we like that building or not. This is about changing the zoning map. The request before you is to change this property from farming residential and what our ordinance defines as light manufacturing district. Those are very different discussions. The packet also includes a site plan, but Planning and Zoning Director Ross Nicholson confirmed, and you guys all have tonight, that it's not about this. This is a distraction. Ross also confirmed that it's conventional rezoning with no special conditions. Again, I asked, why isn't Mr. Allor, if he's so set on protecting us, why isn't he offering those conditions? If this rezoning is approved, what exactly is guaranteed? And if that specific building is never built, residents need to understand what could happen under M1 zoning in the future. And tonight, I am absolutely, well, I shouldn't be shocked. No discussion at all about what M1 is, to tell the people what could happen under M1 zoning. You brought up nothing. You just came to the public hearing, or you just called for public comments. No discussion about what our ordinance says. My second concern is the larger area, and in the April 29th meeting, I believe he discussed owning additional land nearby. So what about the extra 75 acres that borders to the north of there? Is that going to be deemed, oh, it's not good for farming? So I think it's very reasonable for residents to ask, are we looking only at this individual parcel, or are we kind of looking at what this entire area could become over the next few years? And my third concern is the master plan. Yes, the future land use map identifies this area as planned industrial, future planned, but the master plan is more than one map. It also talks about rural character, natural features, compatibility, and the qualities that residents value. And if you look at the back, the ending of the master plan, you'll see pages and pages of public comments. Nobody wants this. So I'm not here tonight saying that Tyrone Township should never grow. Growth happens, but growth should happen carefully. And before recommending this changing, I'm asking the Planning Commission to make sure we are answering the bigger question, not just do we like what is proposed today, but what are we allowing for the future? And you guys didn't do your job. You did not discuss what M1 could bring to us. And I hope that you're going to discuss that after public comment time.
Anyone else?
Hi there, Andy Heath, short-time Tyrone resident, only 15 years. Irrespective of my feelings for the applicant and my feelings for the future look of that property, the truth is the future land use is manufacturing industrial, and it has a list of permitted uses, and those uses are permitted, which means they come back in here, they go in front of you, you look at the use. In the scheme of moving forward, the thing that is hard for the property owner developer to get people around is what's going to be there. We don't know what's going to be there. Well, in order to come up with a concept, that costs a lot of money. The engineering, the site plan, the runoff that was mentioned, the detention ponds, the 3D rendering of the building, all that stuff has to make sense. And on this scale of project, there's $250,000 in engineering there. So without the future land use zoning current, it's tough to get developers on board to spend all that money to show us a rendering of what has to be permitted. It has to come back in here and get permitted again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Did you already speak?
Yes, if I can get 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds.
As a real estate broker and living in this township for 25 years, I pushed Tyrone Township on so many people that come to see me. Why? Because we're paying about 22 mills for our taxes on our homes. The Fenton Township is paying about 34 mills. The city of Fenton is paying 44 mills approximately. Our property taxes are really cheap here, and I think everybody loves it. Now, we have no really businesses that are funding our taxes. Grand Blanc, somebody made a comment earlier, Grand Blanc, the tank plant there is what became Grand Blanc Schools, how Grand Blanc got to be where it's at. So, if you like your taxes where they're at right now, then consider something like this. It's going to build our tax base and keep our personal property taxes lower.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'd like 30 seconds and I'll stick to the 30.
Okay, you come on up.
Thank you.
You got still times?
Yeah, thanks.
3 minutes isn't enough.
Pardon me?
Come on.
Okay. Just gonna ask you, where's your food gonna come from? Where's your hay gonna come from when we keep letting all of this stuff happen? What was this land used for before? It's not useless land. This is what people are saying all across this country and all across Michigan. They're demeaning the value of farmland when there's farmers out there that will lease, that will do this. So again, I ask Mr. Allor, if you're an upstanding guy, why aren't you offering conditional zoning so that we know what to expect, and why aren't you guys talking about what could come in?
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, we will close the public comment and move into Planning Commission and planner comments. So McKenna has provided a report, a review of this application. And Paul here with McKenna will summarize that here in a minute. One comment I had, just to clarify, I made this comment last time, but it is shown that, and I think we noted that it was an error, and I just want you to acknowledge that, but that the north is showing that the proposed is M1, and that it's not. That's
It's wrong, it's backwards, yes.
well, no, this should just like this.
That should be over there, yes.
Well, this is here is.
Okay, it's designated.
This is just still needs to continue to say farming residential.
Correct.
Okay, I just want you to acknowledge that. So if, you know, we're not talking about that parcel at this time, but maybe, you know, that would need to be a change to the, I guess a question to Ross, does this map go into the rezoning? This is just an exhibit.
This is a zoning amendment.
So there's nothing to hold to this. The only thing we're holding to is the designation.
Exactly. There's
Okay.
an amendment form that gets sent to Livingston County Planning Commission for review prior to being sent to the board for the final say.
Very good. All right, that's just one thing I wanted to mention. I probably could have waited, but I guess now we'll go to, anything else, Ross, that you want to respond to, or any general thing?
Well, I mean, one thing that I can say is a little bit of the history on those parcels and why, you know, they are designated as such. Back when the late 90s, early 2000s, when the township board at the time was putting in the interjurisdictional sewer system that is between Tyrone and Heartland Township, they put it along the old US 23 corridor, and in doing so, they allocated just mass quantities of REUs, residential equivalency units, which are very expensive. It's basically buying into sewer capacity. And that is placed on the property owners at the time, which has been a burden to many of the residents. I don't know specifically about this one, but lots of people have lost their land because of it, because they just simply can't afford to pay the taxes and the REU assessments and all of the expenses that come with that. So that's a big part of why that area has been designated for decades for non-residential type uses, is because of the availability of that public sanitary sewer infrastructure, which does not exist on the entire eastern half of the township. It's pretty much just along that US 23 corridor. So that's all I wanted to add, just for clarification. That's why a lot of this came to be
our use that we sold to Heartland?
I don't know anything about that
That was a
specifically.
big sale.
All right, one thing that ties into that I want to know is that we developed this current master plan, adopted in 2024, worked on it, quite a while before that. But the master plan before that, not really loading for me right now, but, oh yeah, here it is. But the future land use map specifically for this area, which is south side Center Road, west side Linden Road, north side Hogan Road to US 23. That area had a much greater extent of industrial and commercial uses and high-density residential. I'll pull it up here. And when we went through the master plan, we kind of talked about this, those that were on the planning commission when we developed it, but that we didn't feel that, and we got public comments through some public meetings and engagement, and a lot of the feedback was that we don't want all this industrial use. So, and it wasn't being developed. A lot of this was set up for office space and stuff like that never really came to fruition. And so, my old master plan's not loading, but basically all the way to Linden Road was a much greater use. Basically, a Linden Road area was a higher density residential, and then transitioned into a pyro A, B, and C. These are different uses that are, Ross, can you explain it about office space?
It's planned industrial research office. The way that it was set up in the previous master plan was that entire square mile, that whole corridor was essentially various different pyro A, B, and C, varying different intensities of uses versus the M1 zoning, which is specifically just light manufacturing, which is more equivalent to one of the lower impact of the pyro districts. That's about the best I can summarize that. But
So we really pared it down when we worked on the master plan, and knowing that we weren't going to eliminate that great amount of industrial, we put the industrial next to the current factory, which is next to the highway, and it's a 44-acre parcel, and then to the north of that we removed it from industrial down to medium density residential, and then the parcels that are in this like goldish color here, knock those down from this pyro planned industrial research office down to residential. So we really reduced the zoning intensity in this area. Anyone else on that specific topic?
we can't practice exclusionary zoning
Exactly,
either. It is required under the Zoning Enabling Act that we do designate certain areas for certain types of uses. If we do not, then that basically opens up the entire township to potential liability where someone can come in and argue, hey, there's nothing designated, there's no options for us, therefore we're taking you to court and we're going to put whatever use wherever we want. And historically, they generally win. So we need to be very careful when going through the planning process for the master plan, for the future land use designations, to ensure that although we were limiting it as much as we possibly can, we did have to have some allocation somewhere.
We have just enough, or do we have way?
Oh, we have what I would consider to be the bare minimum, per what legally, from what I've heard, I'm not an attorney, but yeah, we try to whittle it down as much as we possibly could per the vision of the master plan to, continue with as much rural character as possible, but also understanding that we do need to allow for these types of uses, and we do have areas that, have the infrastructure available for these uses.
Thank you, Ross. All right, go ahead.
See, I got a question for Ross. Ross, I'm going through some of these comments, like I've written notes, I was writing notes for each comment, and one of my questions for you, and I don't know the answer. Kind of do. Oh, sorry. There were a few residents who had stated that when it comes to rezoning to M1, that could mean a data center could potentially go there.
At this time, absolutely not. We are currently under moratorium for the data center uses.
Okay, when the moratorium is,
We're too early
right.
in the discussion, in the drafting process of the data center topic.
So currently, the way the draft is, from what I've read, Pyro is the only zone where a data center could go. So M1 would be
that's all
completely,
we have right now.
you're right, but I'm just saying if that sticks, M1's completely off the table.
Theoretically, if that were to stick.
Theoretically, yes.
Big if.
Well,
It's not that big of an if.
And that's all speculative. We're
Yes,
working on the
it is.
draft, but right now, it's under moratorium.
Correct.
And the data center is another item of business.
Right.
So, one thing to note is that gas main easement right through that. That's not very attractive for many uses, because you can't build anything
Definitely
on
not
that.
for residential.
Okay.
I don't remember the explosion not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so, go ahead, Paul, with your review of the application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as has been stated many times, the request is to rezone this 44 acres from farm residential to M1 light manufacturing. The township zoning ordinance prescribes criteria that obligates you, the planning commission, eventually the township board, to evaluate this request against. In your packets, we provided a report that states those criteria and gave some of our comments about them. The first one is consistency with the township master plan, and the future land use plan is really the headline of that evaluation. It's the first resource, I would say. As has been discussed, the master plan designates this property as planned industrial. The master plan notes compatible uses as one of them is pyro, so in a sense this is a less intense rezoning to planned industrial than even is sort of contemplated in the master plan. So for those reasons, in our opinion, the proposal is consistent with the township's master plan. The second standard is site compatibility, compatibility with site's physical, geological, hydrological, and other environmental features with the uses in the proposed district. There has been discussion about the availability of utilities, about the situation of the land. It is currently used, it has been used for crop production, but it is easily developable for the uses in the requested district. The majority of the permitted uses in the M1 district involve activities that are conducted within structures. Reasonable return on current development options. The applicant mentioned in the public hearing some evidence for you to consider, or some commentary for you to consider about the reasonable return on investment if the property was to be developed with at least one of the uses permitted under the current zoning. The rate of return would be significantly higher under the M1 zoning. Number 4 is the compatibility of the proposed uses with the surrounding uses. As has been discussed, this land is surrounded on two sides by an existing industrial property. The third side is the highway, and a portion of the north side is a wetland and an existing tree stand. For that reason, and because of the development regulations in M1, we believe that it is compatible. There's one the northern border is the one adjacency to something that is not industrial land or infrastructure, and that I think the site plan, the site can be designed to be compatible on that. There are landscape buffers and other sort of development controls about any of the M1 uses that would be accountable when the planning commission sees it in a site plan. There was
Yeah, go ahead.
So the intention of the M1 district, it provides for a wide range of commercial and industrial uses, all of which should provide a nuisance-free environment. That's the first sentence of the intent statement. The M1 district is designed primarily to accommodate wholesale and warehouse activities and industries whose external effects from normal operating procedures are restricted to the zone district and do not affect adversely any of the surrounding districts. So it is a light industrial and manufacturing district. M1 district is so structured as to permit, along with any specified uses, the manufacturing, compounding, processing, packaging, assembly and or treatment of finished or semi-finished products from previously prepared materials, the processing of raw materials for shipment in bulk form to be used in industrial operation at another location is not permitted. And the uses that are permitted, and again, this is a conventional rezoning, so all of them are worth considering, but the permitted principal uses are building trades, public utilities, warehousing, transportation facilities, laundry services, collision repair, industrial plants of various types, lumber sales, propane sales, essential services, and storage. There are also a set of special land uses which require an additional public hearing that might be compatible. Those are communications, compost, care facilities, mixing plants, outside storage, and uses of the same nature or class and caregiver operations. So those are the batch of uses that you're considering. Again, I sort of, I think based on the configuration of the land, the existing surroundings, the availability of utilities, is our opinion that the group of uses is compatible with the site which is proposed. The fifth criteria is infrastructure impacts and the potential impact of rezoning on the ability of the township's public services and infrastructure to support those uses. There's been a lot of discussion tonight about the availability of utilities there, the proximity to the highway, and those two things. So for that reason, it's not this is not industrial land that was not, or it's not land that was not contemplated at one time to be developed in a more intense way. Number 6 is demand for uses in the proposed zoning district. As Ross alluded to just a little while ago, there is very little land that is zoned industrial, so this would provide a incremental amount more of industrial land. This, criteria number 7 is the suitability of proposed versus currently permitted uses. The vast majority of land within the township is zoned farming residential, and there's a very small percentage of land area zoned industrial. And again, just given the location and the existing plan zoned and used industrial land, in close proximity to the highway, those are all characteristics that, in our opinion, support the expansion of industrial usage in this location. The request, to our knowledge, has not been previously submitted within the last year. And the ordinance does specify that you can consider other factors that they're deemed appropriate in your deliberations. So in our conclusion, we conclude that according to those criteria, we do believe that this rezoning is supported by the plans on record and what has been provided. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about that.
Thank you very much. All right, now to Planning Commission discussion. Any, go ahead, Kelly.
I would like to do just a little education.
All right.
This is the ordinance book, the big red book of ordinances. It's online. Anybody can look it up. And I encourage you to look up the M1 and site plan review. I've been looking over this the last few days, and it's pretty thorough what we have to review before something would get built on this property.
Could you speak into the microphone a little bit closer, please?
Sure.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The site plan review is pretty thorough, if you review it, it would give you a very clear picture of what has to happen before a site goes forward, or plans go forward for the site. The other thing is, driving by that property today, looking at the current factory, that's not what it's gonna look like. That's not what the future looks like. That's what we have right now. The future looks different according to the site plan and what our standards are.
This one's not guaranteed. We just have a drawing of something that's not even the actual plan. But that's not.
Can you please be quiet? Sally speaking. Thank you.
It's not education.
Sally, and I think to add on to what you're talking about, you know, that, you know, we do have, in site plan approval, we have the ability to, you know, even appoint an architectural subcommittee and review the looks of a building. Regardless of what that building looks like, we have the ability to control what anything looks like. Thank you. Go ahead.
That's all I wanted to say.
All right.
Well, I'll add, I'm thankful we have an applicant that has looked at the master plan and is asking us to do something that's consistent with the master plan, you know, in the spot that the master plan envisions this. And, you know, from my perspective, I spent a lot of time looking at the application and the ordinances. I would be worried if we weren't allowing the township to develop consistently with the master plan, which, you know, Ross already mentioned, restricts these types of uses probably to the greatest extent possible. If we don't allow uses in the areas that the master plan envisions those uses, that is, to me, I think pretty clear evidence that the township is excluding things. So I mean, we don't want to run that risk from my perspective. That's my 2 cents.
And if you remember back to either 1 or 2 meetings ago when we had a special counsel here discussing something different, but it's being consistent. So we spend a lot of time on the master plan. Once again, we really pared down the industrial and these intense uses, but we spend a lot of time on that saying this is the future land use, but being consistent with approving planning and zoning requests consistent with the master plan. As soon as we start saying, no, yeah, you can do that here, or we had a plan for that, but no, you can't do that, that's when I think, in my opinion, you could get into more legal trouble. Any thoughts, Bill, or Kevin, or anyone else?
No, I just, I feel that for this township to grow and to get a tax base in from businesses, this area has to be developed, because there's no other area to get business income with taxes. So if we ever want a police station of our own or a fire department, this has to happen. If any of you have had a fire and you're having a fire department come from Fenton or Fenton Township to your business, which I also had lately, a van catch on fire on a newly remodeled building, there's extra time involved. So my perspective is, I think that this is the only way we're going to receive tax money.
Any other planning commission comments? All right, we will close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to close public hearing.
We have a motion to close the public hearing and move and support to close the public hearing and move back into the regular meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, back to the regular meeting. Moving on to old business, item 1, L or FR to R to M1 rezoning. Okay, back on the same topic. Any other discussion? Here is, whoops. Kind of putting that back up there as the findings of fact from the planner review, which I don't oppose anything that was in that planner review, except for one thing I did note is somewhere in there it said it was a vacant land to the west, and then you corrected that by it's factory. It's not a building, but that's their lagoons, and that's factory zoned to the west as well. But I think that was a very good review. So if there's not any other discussion, then I am open to a motion.
I'll make a,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
it's all you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend the approval for FR to M1 rezoning.
Could you speak into the
So,
microphone?
Based on the,
the conclusion and recommendations.
I'm having a hard time here. I have a disability with hearing that's registered, and I'm really having a hard time hearing people when they're not speaking into the microphone. I apologize.
all right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah, I said I'll make a motion to recommend approval for FR to M1 for these conclusion and recommendations.
That is a recommendation of the township board.
It's a recommendation to the township board.
I would support the motion based on the findings of fact 1 through 5 in the report that we received from McKenna.
Yep.
We have a motion and support to recommend approval of the Aller FR to M1 rezoning based on the findings of fact as presented and McKenna review report. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to old business, item 2, data centers. So Mario provided a report. Mario from McKenna provided us this report, and Paul can maybe go through that some, and we can just ask questions as we go. One thing that I'm going to do moving forward on the data center topics is appoint someone to kind of take notes as exact direction that we want to provide the planner, so we can start getting more development in the written ordinance. We've done a lot of discussions and a lot of thoughts, which was all good. It's a new topic for many of us, probably all of us. So we're going to try to start getting more direction to McKenna. Now we got Paul here instead of Mario, so it's a little bit different, but I encourage Paul or whoever's here from McKenna to ask and say, here's what we need for you, here's the direction we need. So Kevin's going to kind of keep track of some of that stuff, but we gotta be making we gotta be making big development each meeting, and I'm thinking a new draft every meeting is my thought. After we're done with our discussion, we'll talk about more the schedule and what's expected at next meeting and what's possible. And so go ahead with the review guide.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, I think the intent that Mario's intention in drafting this guide was to do exactly that.
Yep.
There is a chunk of ordinance that is drafted. These are the 5 things that we're requesting feedback on to continue to draft and to finalize and get it closer to adoption. The first one is definitions. There is a fairly comprehensive list in section 2.05 of what a data center is, and then a distinguishment based primarily on the scale of what different data centers are, as the technology exists currently, different levels of scale for each kind of data center. So I guess the question is that clear? Is that comprehensive from our perspective? I think it is, but we're open to any discussion if you think anything is missing in this exercise that we're doing to regulate broadly data centers. Would you like me to go through them, or should we
Go through them. I was going to pull that up, the draft.
Sure. So number 2 is maximum power utilization of hyperscale data centers. The definition of hyperscale data center states that they operate on 60 to 100 megawatts or more of power. There's a hypothesis that there's an option, I guess, to remove that and just have a stipulation in the requirements that says any hyperscale data centers over 100 megawatts are not permitted. We're not aware of a max permitted regulation yet. As you know, many communities are working on ordinances to regulate data centers as we speak. We're not aware of a max permitted regulation yet, but stating the max of a lot of other factors is very common in zoning ordinances. So it's just a way to put a limit on what is even possible and restrict them that way. And then the proposal, or what Mario offered in the memo, was that it be supported with text stating that at this time, a 100 megawatt facility is the absolute largest size the township is capable of accommodating based on the proposed development over the next 20 years. Number 3 is zoning districts, the most like uses in the
As we go through this, I'm thinking if we talk about that, what do you guys think? We talk about that one now since we're on it.
Yeah.
So that, I guess I'll share my thoughts. I think that big one in Saline, that's like 1,000 megawatts, right? I mean, that's.
I think that's true.
But I do think we should limit it, or more is probably not a good term. I think 100 megawatts could be the maximum. I'm in support of that.
Right.
Whatever the lowest amount.
Well, we don't have a lowest amount. Go ahead.
So just one thing to note, while we're going through this, while we're drafting this ordinance, we have also retained special legal counsel to also go through, once we have a more solid draft, to confirm that we're not overreaching and that we're doing everything, as best we can to both protect our community, but also protect ourselves from, potential lawsuits.
And they have experience in this, so this we're not locking this number in the ordinance right now. I think we just want to get, as we work on this draft ordinance, get buy-in from everyone how the direction we're going. And I think a good direction is putting a max on that high end. I'm okay with the 100. I would like to hear from McKenna about the legal implications. I have a feeling it's not been tested, is what we'll hear. So it's not, Sally you maybe indicated like the lowest we could go.
Right.
This isn't PA 233 with solar where they gave numbers. And they set a law and said, you have to allow this. I mean, that was, our hands were tied on that one. This one, it's kind of what we're willing, a risk we're willing to take. If we say we're not going to allow data centers at all, well then most likely someone could see our high voltage transmission line, vacant land that's reasonably cheap, and go to a judge and say, they're not allowing this, and then they can put it anywhere. Then they got it in more residential areas. So it's prudent for us to determine, to develop this ordinance that could allow some, but most importantly will protect the township. So I think should we
I think removing or more makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
so
I mean,
100's our max.
right, well, and the temptation would be to say, oh, 60's the max, but, and again, I think this is untested, but it's a balancing act, right? I mean, we don't want to be exclusionary, because then we have the problem you just described.
Yep.
But we do want to regulate.
So what if we worded it that it cannot affect the customers rather than the amount? So however much electricity they took, it cannot affect the consumers.
I just have a feeling they're gonna say it's not gonna affect them.
Right,
Right?
but we need to add something about like, not just from a regular price like per milliwatt, but also from an infrastructure cost standpoint, right? Because there's a variety of different ways that they will try to influence that cost.
Right, but that's covered in other parts of the draft, though.
Okay.
At least, I mean, generally speaking, so I agree, but.
But I think, Bill, what you're getting at is instead of saying our limit's 100, we would, if we said, we'll allow you to build as big as megawatts that you can build, as long as you're not gonna affect the rates of the customers in our area or something.
Well,
but I just had
something
like that. Is that that's what you're kind of getting at, right? I just have a feeling that Consumers Energy, most likely, they're the high voltage provider in this area, and they would spin that and say, we're not going to affect anyone. We go 1,000. You probably ask them down in Saline, they're going to say, oh, it's not going to affect the customers. So I like having a hard number because we can just point to it and say, that's our number.
Yeah, or the 100 and then cannot affect the rates of the customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a separate topic. We're pretty much now we're talking about at least these categories. We've drafted up to 4 different categories, and the last draft had the largest one is 100 or more, but or 60 to 100 or more. So we're just going to remove the or more and put an end limit on that one. And I do think it's important to add the text in there that Mario suggested, saying this would be supported with text stating that at this time, a 100 megawatt facility is the largest size the township is capable of accommodating based on proposed development over the last 20 years. So we're providing a reason why we're doing that. And as we've continued to develop this ordinance, we could fine tune that number. We could say maybe it's 60 or maybe we want to go more. Probably not, but next meeting, if you come to me and say, hey, John, I think it needs to be 60 or something, we talk about it. So we're not locking it in now. So go ahead on item 3.
Sure. So item 3 is just confirmation that the Bureau district, including sub-districts, is the best option for data center locations. In the draft, there is a table removing the current definition of data processing computer centers, which is permitted right now in Bureau A, B, and C, and then making that definition more granular according to the different types of data centers, and assigning those either special land use not permitted or permitted by right, based on their intensity, essentially. So high technology service uses would continue to be permitted in A and B, and special land use in C. Enterprise data centers would be special land uses in A and not permitted in B or C. Micro data centers, special land uses in A, not permitted in B or C. Multi-tenant or co-location data centers, not permitted in A or C. Permitted or potentially allowable as special land use in Bureau B. And then hyperscale, not permitted in A or C, and potentially allowable in Bureau B only by special land use.
Well, we've discussed this one before. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was just gonna say, I have just a quick comment. Can you define computer information transfer?
Well, this,
For the first one.
That was from our existing ordinance.
Right.
And that we're proposing to remove that, because there may be a definition, I don't know.
I think, I'm not sure that I can precisely, but it was, there's a certain era of zoning ordinance regulations based on data center technologies, maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s. So the reason for striking that is to remove any ambiguity.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that's where I was going with it. It's extremely ambiguous.
Also in that table, we were gonna add a key for what NP and S
Yeah.
meant.
Sure.
Would you, make sure you do that?
Yes.
NP not permitted as special land use. Thank you, Sally.
You said NP and then yes.
NP is not permitted.
Yeah.
Like, let me just pull it up so we're all there. I don't know, you know,
What
once,
level do you want NP?
NP, well.
Well, they're already there.
Just a table, so we indicates what those indicate.
Gotcha.
You know, maybe a parentheses at the bottom. It can't hurt, even if it's somewhere else in the ordinance. You can look at one page, we should know what that means.
So we will make sure that if it's necessary, and, you know, if that is not in the context of a larger table, if it's necessary, we'll.
Okay.
Yes. Or probably where it is next time.
Okay, so pyro districts, or I guess the bigger picture is overlay versus zoning districts. We've talked about it a lot. Last meeting, to give Paul a little history, I was in favor of overlay. I thought it was we get to pick and choose where. And then Mario came back and gave us a spiel on why he thought zoning districts are better. And I was more on board with that after hearing that. And so we talked about it. And I think if we did go with pyro or zoning districts, I think the pyro is appropriate. And I think you have a good table there with it always being a special land use. It's never permitted by right, either not permitted or special land use. So what's everyone's thoughts?
I agree. I think that's probably the best approach. And I think it may be strongest against the exclusionary zoning challenge because you're being consistent. I mean, that was one of the points we brought up at the last meeting. I think consistency is important. So.
Any other thoughts? Agree? Okay. Let's.
I agree.
Let's stick with that.
Okay. I think at least the chair just answered number 4, which is requiring approval through special land use process.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's appropriate, and this is sort of, yes, okay, great. Number 5 is just a question about whether it's necessary to add more characteristics of enterprise and edge data centers in that appropriate definition, and just sort of asking you to consider, are the bureau setbacks maximum sound level not exceeding 45 decibels in standard state construction code sufficient? Enterprise and edge data centers are those that are designed to serve the needs of only a specific business. They are subject to special land use approval, and there's a set of standards for them. This is just essentially asking for review.
I think we should, you're basically asking if we have different criteria. So like setbacks, for example. Setbacks for this one and setbacks for this level.
Right.
I think in certain criteria that's very advantage to us. I don't understand it with the decibels because regardless of what size it is or whatever, we're going to set a decibel at like a property line is what I believe we're going with. You know, it doesn't matter what size, we're going to be comfortable with a decibel or we want it lower or whatever. I don't think that.
So there's
It's not like we should raise it for a bigger center.
So from what I understand, setback distance is based on decibel and not just a big swipe of, hey, it needs to be 200 feet or 500 feet, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
No.
Okay.
I think what we're talking about is we have 4 levels, we'll call it,
Right.
of data center. I'm going to go through the names right here. enterprise, edge micro, micro-tenant co-location, and hyperscale. That's our
Right.
4 categories, 4 levels, right?
Correct.
So in those levels, as we continue with this ordinance, we can say, for example, item like setbacks, like, should we apply different setbacks or require different setbacks for these different levels? Okay, that's what you, that's the question. Yeah, so they're asking us,
I think
Yeah.
he's asking that we need to give them direction, so.
in this case, an edge or micro data center, the definitions are small data centers built near the people or businesses they are intended to serve, providing real-time data processing, analysis, and action, making low latency communication with smart devices possible. Edge data centers typically operate on less than 100 to 150 kilowatts, just paid at a time, of power. And so those facilities, I think, are more in line with what traditional infrastructure has been in office buildings. As it's written, it's not regulating those micro centers more strictly than the underlying zoning district. And I think that that is in response to the fact that a modern research facility likely already has one of these facilities in there. And so, at least as it's written, it's consistent with with regulating the entire use, not singling out the micro data center portion of that.
Okay.
But open for discussion, or, we'll take whatever comments you have and research and incorporate them.
I mean, I like that approach. I do see we have decibels in that one, and I think we just want to, in my opinion, be consistent with that, because regardless of the size, we only want it to be so loud.
Yeah, sound level's not gonna exceed 45 decibels anyways.
Yeah, and we talked about nighttime, daytime. I think it's just, well, Mike had a good point on that one, but, and I think that one, the decibels specifically, is something that we're gonna revisit when we get back into a special council review, so we can kind of get their feeling on how low can we push this,
Do we have decibel limits for other
Yeah.
businesses? And are they consistent?
Gravel pits.
Ross, what else do we regulate decibels on?
On most things, I mean, we do have a noise ordinance that, has limitations on decibels with, certain items being excluded from that, but everything else is governed by a general decibel limit.
Is it usually measured from the property line?
Typically.
Yes, okay.
Well, it's just something overall, and we've discussed this with Mario, and I think he did a pretty good job of taking some language from our recently developed extractive industrial ordinance and solar, battery, wind ordinances. But any of these types of review requirements and other, maybe even additional reviews, we want to be consistent throughout our entire ordinance. We can't just start saying, you can build a factory over here, it would be this decibels, but if you're a data center, you gotta be this. We're gonna lose in the court if that ever got challenged. So, in my opinion, to a certain degree,
There are the special
'cause there's-
land uses, and those,
Yep.
it is a special land use in the sense that you can treat them differently based on the intensity, the type, the potential nuisance factors of a specific use. So, I mean, we do want consistency in general, but, for each special land use, there are the specific conditions for
Yeah.
each category.
So I think if your question on this item is, should there be more characteristics of enterprise and edge data centers that need to be called out? Or are the standard pyro setbacks, maximum sound levels of 45, standards in the standard code sufficient? So, I think it's something to still think about, but we need to provide them direction if we want to have additional requirements in these 2 lower levels of data centers, the lower categories. Remind me of the size of the second category? Let me pull that up here.
Less than 100 to 150 kilowatts.
Kilowatts. Yeah. That's pretty small.
Can you do that?
Um,
I just want to see the 4 types.
There's a 4 types. So the lower 2, we're saying we have general setbacks in pyro, in general sound that are we gonna apply that, or do we need to fine tune those? I think, right now, I think we're probably good unless anyone has any thought on additional requirements or characteristics for those 2. Okay, I believe that
About vibration.
that's been discussed. Michael Amberg, he's absent today, he's on a vacation, but he's, in my opinion, very knowledgeable on not just data center research, but vibrations and stuff like that, and he's brought that up, and that's definitely something that we're gonna regulate, and not just vibrations, but also the frequency. We got the decibels of the noise, which is how loud it is, but the frequency of the noise. There's frequencies out there that we can't hear, but maybe your dog can hear it, or your horse or something, so we're gonna look into regulating that. Do we know all the ins and outs of the frequencies of a data center and what we're gonna allow? Not yet, but it's our plan, and I guess while you bring that up, can both Kevin and Paul, you guys make a note to, I guess, for us to review any of these levels of vibrations. I don't know how you would measure vibrations, but we're going to have some kind of probably prior to the site monitoring, and but set some kind of vibration requirements and frequencies. I couldn't tell you what frequencies will sound, be fine for my ear, but we're going to want to determine different frequencies that a data center could put off and ones that we are not willing to accept in this township.
Water use is another.
We're getting a little off topic, so we're just gonna, but we will bring that up, and the water use is definitely something, probably one of the biggest issues that we haven't figured out yet. Just overall in our data center ordinance development, we have had this under 6-month moratorium, and we got another 6 months. So not saying we're half done with it, but we're in the middle of developing this. It's something that we're gonna want to regulate. We're gonna want to control how much water someone can use. We got to find out if we can control how much water someone can pump out of the ground. I think there could be, some eagle requirements that at a certain size that we lose control of that. I don't know that right now, but that is something that we will want to regulate, and it'll go back to these levels. If you got this, maybe a small little manufacturing or small little research business or something, and they got their own little data center that fits into these lower categories, their water requirement is going to be different than the bigger ones. So it's definitely something we got on our radar. We haven't solved it yet. I encourage any other concerns, but also specifics. If you say, here's what I think exactly we should regulate or allow, email it to Ross, which is planning at Tyrone Township. It's zoning at Tyrone Township, and I think planning comes to me? Planning comes to me? Either way, zoning at Tyrone Township, and he will basically just send it out to us. But what we can't do is all email back and forth behind the scenes. It's open meetings, So Ross sends out any public feedback. It doesn't have to be at the meeting. You can send an email. We get, I wouldn't say a lot, but we get.
There's tons of materials that
we get a lot. We probably get like one feedback a week, I would say, on this. It comes and goes. This week we'll probably get a lot, and then it'll go dry. But keep sending those comments. We have water on our mind. It's not figured out yet. I think the next item down here, the specific requirements for co-location hyperscale, could be discussed at the next meeting. So that's kind of a, not saying we're ending this discussion now, but that is a good point to say, okay, in these two larger levels of data centers, what specifically do we want to look at in those? Maybe that's the water usage, maybe that's a different setback, maybe that's a different architectural look of that building. Some of them we may just say, that's more, that does work with that pyro district that we've allowed it to be in, Pyro B. So Pyro B has some general characteristics or requirements. So maybe some of those will just be the general stuff, but we might have specifics for issues. So I think, any other discussion? Thanks for the guide, and this is what we need to do. We need these exact topics, kind of more focused topics. I feel like the last 6 months, we've had time to throw out ideas and talk, but we got to really narrow it down into getting into text. And then when we get those texts, we review them and modify. So I like this, what did Mario call this, a guide? I like that, and I think if anyone has an idea where to continue the discussion or continue writing the ordinance, is there something, the next topic that we can direct them to further develop?
Can I brief comment on the data center before you go on?
You can, yes, go ahead.
I like the direction you're talking. Like I said earlier, I think we need rules of engagement dealing with these data centers. You know, they're not like a normal development, like where trustee will be built, that we talked about earlier here. These things should have higher level requirements, higher level safeguards.
Yes.
And I don't think we should be afraid that we're going to get sued for that. I mean, you know, I think they're going to be coming in no matter what, and I think they need to be giving some things to the community where they're landing. So you creating the proper safeguards for us as residents is necessary.
Yep, and I agree, and the reason I brought up, maybe because, you know, we've also worked on that pyro and stuff. In some cases, maybe the setback of pyro was what we would allow for a data center. You know, we've got to review all that, but in most cases, it's probably going to be, we're going to have either a stricter or a different requirement. So we're looking at that, and I think Kevin's going to speak on the community benefit.
Yeah, so
that's another topic, and
sure. I applaud you.
We're going to do our best to get.
Don't be afraid of being strong, though.
Yep.
Let's not go weak.
Right, so Ken, one of the things that I had brought up from the very beginning, with anything, I think that we need to start moving forward with a lot of different projects, especially ones that, you know, house a special land use permit. There's a variety of different ideas out there, but was having that community benefit, right? Because, I mean, obviously they're taking something from the community. What are they going to be giving back in return to the community? I know that a lot of people in the community had talked about things like, you know, they wanted like Parks and Rec, or they wanted, you know, there's a variety of different things. Whatever the case, it would be nice to get that out of our pockets as taxpayers and have it be on theirs. And so as far as, you know, having that community benefit and lighten our tax load, that's one of the main things that and I've been keeping everybody kind of posted on this too, so.
Thank you.
Well,
Yes, sir.
the other tool is that this is just the zoning ordinance. We're also going to have a regulatory.
Those are regulatory.
We haven't even, that's going to be on our schedule. We're going to ask Paul about that. He's probably going to have to go check with Mario. That's a further discussion, but yes. We also plan to have a regulatory ordinance. It's not required or recommended approval by the planning commission. It's something that our planning consultants, attorneys, and other ordinances we've developed. We like to have a regulatory too, so not only here's what the planning and zoning, what they gotta follow, but here's the licensing and regulations they have to do. And that we can better control the applications and reviewing and monitoring what any of this requirement. So that hasn't even been under development. Hopefully it's under development. We haven't seen a draft of it yet.
I'll send one.
You got one?
I'll send you info.
Okay. Anything on data centers that we want to better work on or give more direction to McKenna or me? Do I need to do something better? Because I think we do want to try to just have a little better development in the ordinance and focus topics.
I think by giving the feedback they're looking for, we will be getting a revised draft based on that, I assume, right? For the
next
workshop.
topics are our schedule.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the goal. We want a revised draft. I don't know, Paul, if you can commit to that. We got to work out Mario's schedule is another topic. But is that we got to find out if we can get a revised draft for the next workshop. It is 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think the direction specific direction that we've given today it's not much change.
Correct.
You know, and I think we're open. You know, Mario, sometimes he's got to put stuff in front of us for us to say, yes, we like it, or no, we don't. And I think we still need to do some of that, but even if the next draft is just what we talked about, and maybe further develop it on some things, that's fine. I would like to see that next draft.
Sure, and I think he also was hoping to dive into the hyperscale regulations as they're currently written.
Yep.
You alluded to vibration analysis and how, there's a proposal on the table there.
Yep. Okay. And I think the memo's good. Do you guys want this? Is this fine, or do you want it different? And key items. So I like that approach.
So tentatively, if it's possible, we could potentially have a draft to review at the workshop.
Yes, 2 weeks. I think we would like to see that.
Yeah, I think we can incorporate these edits and then tee up the next batch of these, this or that. What do you think of?
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. So I guess that's our plan, or my plan, and I think I'm supported here with the planning commission that now we were able to get our workshops instead of 1 week after the planning commission meeting, 2 weeks. So essentially it's 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. And even if it's just the small changes that we've already talked about, and a few thoughts that we can continue to talk about, but it's hard to continue that discussion for next meeting if we're still looking at the same draft. So, any further discussion on data centers for tonight? Okay, moving on to Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. This is something we've been working on for a while. We're getting close, but right now we don't have, I don't think we have a final draft of what we need based on the Livingston County planning comments and subsequent special legal counsel analysis of those comments and in the direction that we provided both here at this table and in the closed session. I'll pull up that draft ordinance. Well, one thing, Mario provided another memo, and this one is specific to setbacks. Okay, so and then we have the revised draft. Okay, the yellow items are what we've recently changed based on the county and subsequent legal counsel comments. There's not much. Setbacks is drafted in there, is reduced to 250. Some inspection.
These edits were just to clarify the council, as I understand it, thought it was superfluous or confusing to talk about the township regulating things that the state already reviews and asks to just make clear that the township is regulating its own things and then the licensing agency at the state level is regulating everything
Yep, and that's specific to this one right here.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, so I don't think this is complete based on what we've discussed. And one is the setbacks. So what we had in our recommended ordinance to the county was that we would allow these uses in B2, M1, and M2 zoning districts. But we also had a setback, a requirement for a setback saying the caregiver operation, I just need to pull it up here and read it. All parcels or lots containing a caregiver operation shall be located at least 500 feet from a residential zoned district. This setback distance shall be measured from the outermost property line boundaries of the lot or parcel upon which the caregiver operation will be situated to the nearest point of residential zoning district boundary. That was very difficult. The county called it out saying it's exclusionary. And I mean, I don't think it quite is. There's maybe one instance, but it's very, very tight. It's very difficult because we don't have a Fenton Industrial Park where there's 20 or 40 parcels of industrial in this area. Ours are 1 or 2. We got very little. So there's almost no parcels that are industrial that aren't adjacent to a residential use, which includes FR and RE. Those are residential uses. So what we talked about, I went back to listen to the video at the 2 meetings ago, I believe, was that we would change this to a setback from the operation, from the caregiver operation, meaning someone could buy have a 40-acre parcel that's zoned B2, M1, M2, and have their operation and still have that setback within their parcel. Right now, we're not allowing to have that setback within their parcel. So, I think Mario either proposed a little different direction, or maybe he didn't fully understand, and he gave us this. Report with some options. And his options were kind of, instead of B2, M1, and M2, we go to Pyro, or we go to, and we got a map of these options in here. I think, maybe is it not in this? I don't know, that might not have been in that packet. Anyway, yeah, options. Here's the options. See, so these options are, I don't know. I don't think we go with that. I like the other way that we did talk about is allowing the setback within the parcel. So this would be allowing different zoning districts to allow the medical marijuana.
This is an attempt to respond to the comment about not being exclusionary.
Yep.
And not using the device, I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding, not using the device that you prefer, which is moving it inside.
Yep. I don't know. What's everyone's thoughts on this?
Well, right, because if you measure from the operation itself to the property line, there are more sites that theoretically could allow the use under the existing draft. So, I mean, I think that was the intention. Now, I would still be worried about exclusionary if that meant that there were no parcels that fit the criteria. But, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think we can do a similar sort of, for instance, analysis of what that.
I don't even know if we need to. I can just, I mean, looking at our future land use map, I mean, we have, this doesn't have to be vacant land. This doesn't, I mean, we have M1, M2, do we got B2?
B2.
What do we got B2? I got a map right in front of me. I was gonna pull it up on my screen here. Future land use, I don't know, I don't have it right here, but we have some, we have enough of those zone properties that are fairly large properties. A 40-acre property could have a 500-foot setback and still operate. Now, I think it's a pretty tight doing that, in my opinion. And I think it goes back to the intent. The intent is, we don't want it by residential. The operation, you know? So, what's the thoughts? I feel like we already discussed this one, but any other thoughts on it? Is everyone okay if we set a 500-foot setback from the caregiver operation?
I think so.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay, let's go with that. So, you're gonna have Mario draft that up?
Correct.
Okay. So, I think we were good on this other one you talked about, that probably the biggest one that we talked about was the cards.
Right.
Registry cards.
Yeah.
Zach, do you want to take that one and discuss?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what it was that we were redacting from what they were to provide to the township. But basically, after meeting in closed session to go through a memo that was prepared by the township's attorneys, we had decided to revise that to require the applicant to provide a redacted registration card that basically only gives the township the essential information it needs to determine whether they're licensed caregiver.
The meeting was, the last regular meeting.
Yes.
The video, it has it all shown. I know Mario had missed that meeting, but Zach did a good job of explaining that during the meeting. It wasn't an official motion because we're not adopting anything at this time, but exactly what's redacted is in that video.
Sure.
And if there's any question, ask Ross and he'll get with us. And now that also is going to be in the regulatory ordinance. So I knew it didn't get changed because we didn't see the updated regulatory ordinance. And Ross said it was still under the work. So we want to see that. And I don't think these are big changes. I don't really think there's any decisions anything that we just need to see it, and then we'll hopefully take action on it and get this thing done. Questions from McKenna?
No, that's clear. Thanks.
Clear.
And this one will not need to go back to Livingston County.
It doesn't need to go back to Livingston County. It doesn't need a public hearing. It goes straight to the board.
Straight to the board.
Yeah, and just for the benefit of everyone here, the reason why we're here again, under moratorium again for this is because the last draft that we had put together, that we recommended for approval of the township board, was reviewed by county planning, which is the statutory requirement, and they came back with a recommendation for denial. In summary, basically because they thought that it was being too restrictive. And that's what the goal was, what we were trying to do is put as many protections in place to protect residents. They thought that
they had about 10
we
things.
went a little bit too far. But we do have legal counsel, special legal counsel for this. They have a different opinion than the county has, so we're trying to keep, as many of those original protections that we had in place in this one as well.
Very good, Ross. Just a rough estimate was they had about 10 things that they didn't like, and our attorney was like, no, that's all fine, but these two you might want to look at. Setbacks and the redacted cards. If we ask them for their medical marijuana card, we can get is it a felony? I think we get a felony.
Yeah,
It's a problem.
It's a big issue, so we don't ask them for that.
basically instead of rolling out the red carpet, so to speak, we were going and taking the red carpet, throwing it away, and burning it.
Yeah, very good job, Ross. Thank you. Any other discussion on Michigan Medical Marijuana Act? Okay. Moving on to call to the public. Any items? 3 minutes. Who's up? Chris? Go ahead.
Chris Rapetta, resident. So I think you guys, just as a recommendation, by the way, Ross would remember that in January of 2025, I submitted early papers about data center concerns because I have them. I work in the industry. I've been to some of the largest co-location data centers around the world for customers that I've supported. I've seen them, I've been in them, and not hyperscale, because that's something newer at the level of Selene or others. But this is not new, and I did say 2025, that's over a year and a half ago. So we're a little bit behind in trying to catch up with this discussion. What I'd like to point out is to say that for McKenna and for everybody else here on the Planning Commission, we need to block out all of the different items that you're going to be working at, because we get hyper-focused on drilling down into setbacks or DBAs and other things, but we don't even have the full list of things in the plan yet as headers. You know, so cooling and other things should be a header. Here's what I want to say about hyperscale and even some of the big co-location data centers. These are not pyro light industrial things. We have to think about them differently. A hyperscale data center is about the resources that it consumes. I mean, if you think about water resources, we've got 8 million, 8.5 million out of a data center, just a hyperscale data center for Microsoft in Wisconsin, 8.5 million gallons of water per day. So what I'm
on that specific one, how many megawatts is that? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but megawatts is great. It's great to include that, but we have to start talking about in the discussion the resources that it uses. Megawatts is only one resource. We've got water resources, and any water they take from Tyrone Township isn't from a creek. It's from our water table. And I've got big concerns as a resident that my 35-foot well that's 35 feet deep is going to start having problems once they start tapping into the aquifer. So that's why I'm saying this. We've got lots of concerns about the resource consumption. Now, in hyperscale data, this is M2. M2 level at minimum is huge manufacturing capabilities, not because of data in a computer, but because you've got to have a bank of diesel generators, because data centers are 24/7. They can never go down, ever. So we've got all the power and power backup systems. Some of them may even be, and it's going to get worse because of the development and the technology of chip making. You know, NVIDIA and the graphical GPUs, or the GPUs, the graphical processors, take an enormous amount of heat because they're processing for data, for AI and other things. But we're going to get into carbon-based computing soon, not just silicone-based computing. So there's a lot of things that are demanding huge amounts of resources that would take us out of a pyro into a much larger M2 for hyperscale. So just the beginning of it, but it's going to be big. Start thinking bigger is my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Quickly, thank you for the meeting we had with you and Supervisor Carnes. It was great. I'm hoping that little document I sent over was helpful, and if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always open. Michael Yules, resident, Tyrone Township. Just want to follow up briefly on the prior discussion. Given that this is a speculative development with no identified end user, and given the long-term implications of the zoning decision, I think it's important that the public has a complete understanding of any related discussions or planning that may have occurred, not just for this specific proposal, but for similar or related development considerations within the township that may inform long-term land use decisions. To that end, after this meeting, I will be submitting a FOIA request for any related agreements, communications, and development discussions so that the public record reflects the full context of what may be under consideration. For decisions of this scale and long-term impact on the future of Tyrone Township, that level of transparency and a complete public record are important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Gordon Tomaszewski. I just want to kind of follow up on what Mr. Knowles stated. I know probably when we had a new board elected, I had brought up a similar comment asking why we couldn't have a prohibition on NDAs. Subsequently, we've had where, I believe it was about 6 months ago, 4 to 6 months ago, the board voted that they didn't even want to take the issue up. And we have members that claim they're here for the community benefit, they're here for the community, and yet they wouldn't agree to prohibit signing NDAs. You guys have the ability to do it. You don't have to wait on the full board. So I would love to see one of you recommend that every one of you on this board, on this commission, turn around and bring it up and put your money where your mouth is. To me, transparency is the best thing. So unless people have something to hide, they're not looking out for the best interest of the residents, I see absolutely no reason that residents shouldn't be informed on what their officials are doing on any board. I just think it makes good common sense. I could get into, I know I watched the last meeting and I kind of had to chuckle because Mr. Ross made a grandiose speech about poor farmers. I've been around more farmers than you can speak of in my 66 years on earth. I can guarantee you, most farmers are not poor farmers. And he wanted to bring up that, well, who are we to tell people to do what to do with their land? Well, that's why we have civilized society. You guys are part of that civilized society. You guys make that determination by setting the master plan and the zoning ordinances as to what residents can and can't do. You give the guideline. So I think it's funny to try to turn around and profess that these people are suffering when they've actually, most of them I know have had a lot more opportunity, and comparing them to a GM employee is laughable. They've actually had a lot more opportunities as far as financially. They still own their land. And I know, Kevin, you said your dad's property was in Tuscola County. He'll make a return on his investment. I don't know when he bought it, but I'll guarantee you, if you look at, I'm sure he paid a few $100s an acre, and just I'm basing off, if your father's been farming for any amount of time, the average land value in Tuscola County for agricultural land is between $7,000 and $10,000. So there's a buyer for everything. It just, you may have to wait. So it's not like there's nothing to be had for them when they do decide to retire if they don't want to turn it on and keep it a generational farm.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Nice faces made there, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Someone gets up to speak and you're rolling your eyes and making faces at them.
Smiles
Nice.
for days.
What's that?
I have smiles for days.
No, rolling eyes?
I can do that too.
Yeah, okay. What I'd like to ask is, Jeanette Ropetta, Tyrone Township resident, and the last two speakers, two, spoke on what I would like to ask. Have any of you signed an NDA with any developers or anybody that would affect anything that you do on this board? So I'll start with Sally. Have you signed one?
I am not comfortable answering that question without speaking to someone first.
Okay, Bill, have you signed one? John?
You have no right to ask us that.
I can ask you. You don't have to answer.
I'm not answering.
So you're not answering. John, have you signed an NDA?
Get your comment, finish up.
I can ask the questions. Kevin, you don't have to answer me. Kevin, have you signed an NDA with any developers? Maybe the ones that you've gone to go look at the data centers?
No.
Those ones?
I have.
You have not?
I have not.
Okay. What about Zach? Have you?
No, I've not.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the answer. But I'm glad that somebody's going to FOIA it, and apparently we've got to FOIA it every week to find out if anybody has signed, whether it's you or the board or other ones. The old master plan you were talking about, we now know more than we knew back then. And you talk about the old master plan, oh, we came back and we looked at it again, we changed. So there can be changes made. I understand about the exclusionary and the fear of getting sued and all of that, but there are times when you need to say, we are going to do what's right and do what's right by the residents. Nobody wants these data centers, and certainly not these hyperscale data centers. To me, it sounds like you're rolling out the red carpet. I don't think that you're putting in enough restrictions, and when I hear you talking about community benefits, what's going to benefit me when my well goes dry? What are they going to do to benefit me? What are they going to do to benefit me when they are using closed loop system that you guys think is just fine and it leaks and our environment is poisoned? What is going to benefit me then? Nothing. That's like saying, well, you know, we'll fine them. There's no fine that can replace the damage that ends up getting done. I'm disappointed that you voted for the zoning request tonight, and I will repeat again, it was not about that building. It's about the rezoning. And I asked Mr. Aller, put your money where your mouth is. I've got a camera tonight. Speak to the residents. Tell them what you will promise and put it in writing. You make the decision. You tell people what you will do and what you will promise, because right now, that's not what's going to happen. And what about the other land that you own? Is that going to be wrapped up in it too? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, close public comment and move to miscellaneous business. Anyone have anything on miscellaneous business?
We kind of touched on it earlier, but just so everybody's on the same page, the moratorium for data centers was extended 9 months.
9 months?
By the board, yeah. We actually went, it was originally 6. It was recommended to go to 9, so
I wasn't aware of
that was extended to 9, and then I don't think we need it for medical marijuana at all, but that was extended another 6 months.
Let's get that one done.
So, those are the only updates I have at the moment, so.
Thank you, Zach. Ross, do you have anything for miscellaneous business?
Just that we have the next workshop scheduled for June 24th at 6 p.m. That's all I got.
So tentatively, we're gonna have a second draft for our data center ordinance. Is it worth adding medical marijuana draft since we can't take action on it?
I would say so. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's possible, if we can get.
Don't stop the data center ordinance progression, but if it's done, we can look at it and maybe there's a small change.
Yeah.
But we won't be able to take action on that until the next regular meeting.
Correct.
And then, anything else? We got, Ross, just those two, really.
Yeah, that's all that we have currently.
We've kind of put a pause on our accessory structures. It's kind of back burner compared to these other
We've got the
other tasks, higher priority. So I think let's keep it that way for now. It's hard to get it, dabble in it. We started digging that back out when we had a lower workload, but, all right.
It's a nice winter time topic.
Okay. All right, I think I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
Motion and support to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Wait, you got notes and then,
Yeah.
I think you got it good.
There was one thing that I had problem
I
with
think
that I
we're
wanted
lucky
to
to
ask
have
you.
you cutting.
Right, so when it came to enterprise and adjacent environments, I said there was for decibel regulations on 80 hertz, noise level below,
Hey, thank you, Tony.
noise level below 45 dBA. You get here to the characteristics of enterprise and edge data centers outlined in 2205, which categorize data centers into 4 different levels based on their type. The lower 2 levels, hyperscale, multi-tenant, require regulation of both noise and vibration, cadence, frequency, condition.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Is that good?
So just, if you won't mind, just send that to Russ.
Oh, real quick on definitions, these should be considered finalized. That was the other one I couldn't.
I think they're
I think they're finalized.
Doesn't mean we. I didn't know there was some. But send that.
Did you?
We're not voting on this. Okay. Send that, send it, that's good.
Let me send this to you
You
first.
can send it to me and Russ. We can, you and I can.
Perfect.
Or we can develop.
Right.
Behind the scenes.
Right.
We can, I can confirm what we had already talked about, I think this
Perfect. Okay. Let me do that right now then.
You know,
So.
it just helps me as I try to figure out.
Shake my hand and shake your hand.
Yep.
Someone's taking.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
So, John, oops, hold up. This is wrong. He's leaving.
My nephew went, the first place team, like 17, and I guess like 15, they have 3 teams.
It's 70 feet deep.
The top 2 teams in the whole thing are like that, like some of the bottom 2 are like that, so they're stacked.
So,
It's deep.
and that's what I was
They're
wondering.
playing the first place one, they beat them. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
That's the kids can play it.